Hello everybody, this is Ogreboy and I'm going to be doing my review for the 2019 movie Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. So, in this movie, set 1 year after The Last Jedi, Rey, Finn, and Poe lead the Resistance final stand against Supreme Leader Kylo Ren and the First Order, who are aided by the return of the Galactic Emperor Palpatine. This movie is a big mixed bag for me. I have a lot of conflicting feelings on this one, just like I now do with The Last Jedi stuff, looking at how that movie really hurt the trilogy too. But this one, I think, hurt the trilogy the most, to be honest with you. But before I get into my negatives and stuff, I'm gonna start with the positives. I think the cast are all, once again, really good, especially Adam Driver and Daisy Ridley. Yes, I said Daisy Ridley because I honestly do not think that she's that bad as Rey, and I don't really think Rey is a bad character. I think she's actually one of the highlights of this trilogy, to be honest with you. I think she's a good main character, and I love Rey and everything. A lot of people can't handle her being the lead character in a Star Wars movie just because she doesn't have something between her legs, but we'll save that conversation for another day. The action is decent. There's some really good action moments in here and stuff, especially the fight between Kylo Ren and Rey when they're on the destroyed Death Star in the middle of the ocean and stuff. I love that. And everything right before he becomes Ben Solo again. I love that. And there's this new little droid in here named Dio who is just absolutely adorable and everything. Anytime anyone comes close to him, he's like, no thank you, no thank you. But he's just a really lovable little droid. And I forgot to mention BB-8 in my other review for The Force Awakens and stuff. I love BB-8. I think he was also a really welcome addition to the Star Wars characters and stuff, and I think he's a welcome addition to the droids of Star Wars. And I think Dio is too. I kind of hope we get to see him more. And Babu Frick is kind of cute and stuff, but I never really liked Babu Frick as much as a lot of people did, as far as the new characters go. And it was cool getting to see Lando Calrissian once again played by Billy D. Williams, who I think actually gave a really great performance. I think he was still once again really good. I just wish that they would have done more with him. The score is pretty great. John Williams did a really good job at making this feel like an epic finale, even though the movie itself don't really feel as epic as it should. But John Williams' score is definitely not a fault in that, because his score is great. I wouldn't say it's the best of the Star Wars saga. In fact, I don't think I'd say any of the sequel trilogies movies are the best scores and everything, but this one still has a pretty good one. The effects, like the rest of the sequel trilogy, are pretty good. They use a lot of practical. There is some CGI, but it's not very noticeable, I don't think, to be honest with you. The effects, I think, are pretty good, and I love the little bit of training we see between Rey and Leia. That was really cool at the beginning of the movie, and I think they did a really great job with Leia, with what they had to work with and all that. I think they did a really good job with her, and everything with Carrie Fisher's passing. There's no way that they could have done the movie the way they originally wanted and stuff, unless they recasted her or used CGI. And I think what they did with this turned out the best. They just used archive footage from previous movies and everything. I don't think it's really that noticeable. I think they did a really good job at editing her into this movie and into the story and everything. There are things about Leia's character in this movie that I didn't, character arc and where things went with the character, that I didn't like, but I also did like, because it's mixed bag. I'll talk about that here in a few minutes. But I wish they could have done more, but I think what they did with her was great, though. And I think Carrie Fisher would have been satisfied enough with what they did. But I don't really like a lot of things they do with Leia either. Just like with the Luke dying from using the Force, in The Last Jedi. I absolutely hate that they made Leia die, because she barely even did anything with the Force. All she did was whisper the word Ben, and that's what killed her. That doesn't make sense to me at all. I think that's actually one of the dumbest ways a character has died in the Star Wars movies, just from using the Force, saying Ben and everything. When Luke and Vader have communicated with each other using the Force, it's indicated that characters can feel the other stuff from the Force when other things happen to other characters in other movies and stuff. I just felt like that was really stupid. And the Force healing thing, that part doesn't really bother me, them using the Force healing to save Kylo Ren right after Leia makes her sacrifice, and everything. But I also feel like they overuse that too at the end of the movie when Rey dies from using the Force, because pretty much in Disney's canon, if you use the Force, you die. And he uses the Force to bring her back and everything. It's like, that's not how the Force works. It's like, I'm not a writer on Star Wars and stuff, but I know enough to like understand that that's not how it really works and everything. I try to I can believe you can use the Force to heal somebody. That makes sense, but to bring somebody back from the dead, that just doesn't make sense. It's like the Force in this trilogy, it kills you, but it can also bring you back to life. So how does that work? It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't like the way they use the Force in this trilogy, and everything. It shouldn't have awakened and just let it sleep through the whole trilogy, since they don't want to use it right. And I really hate how this movie goes out of its way to retcon stuff from The Last Jedi and everything, just because the toxic Star Wars haters hated the stuff that they did with it. Yes, I didn't like a lot of the stuff they did with it and everything, but I was more willing to give it a chance. And then when I saw how I was willing to be more open to it, and I was like, if they nail the third one, this could still be a really great entry. But because of how they handled this movie, it's affected the entire trilogy. A lot of the things that were set up in A New Hope were discarded in The Last Jedi, and everything that was set up in The Last Jedi was discarded in this movie to try to make up and be more of a sequel to The Force Awakens. So it's really annoying, and everything. And the dialogue in here is laughably bad. Not on the same level of as bad as the dialogue was in the prequels, especially Attack of the Clones, but it's still pretty bad. Especially like the scene when one of the scenes that gets made fun of and roasted on the internet all the time is somehow Palpatine returned. It's one of the actual lines in the movie. They didn't come up with a good reason for why the Emperor is there, when it's pretty obvious they could have just used the clone story, say that he was a clone of the former Emperor, that the Emperor had a clone ready for later on and stuff. But I don't think they really knew what they were doing with this trilogy and everything. It really shows that they had nothing planned out when they started making these movies and everything. And I think it could have been a lot better if they would have just taken their time on it and everything. Like, both of the original trilogies had the original and the prequel, both of those trilogies had at least 3 years between each movie, and this trilogy only had 2 years between each movie because Disney wanted to rush it out and make that money. And I think that really hurt not only this movie but the whole trilogy. It felt really forced having the Emperor back, and it also annoys me that they call him Emperor Palpatine and stuff like that through the whole movie. It's like he's known as Darth Sidious and stuff. They don't call him Palpatine in the movies. If you're gonna call him the Emperor, just call him the Emperor. Don't call him Emperor Palpatine, because that just doesn't sound right. And everything. It's like they didn't know what they were doing when they brought him back. And there's too many fake out deaths in this movie too. It makes it where this movie feels like there's no stakes at all. Rey Rey dies, but Kylo Ren brings her back to life. Chewie supposedly dies, and then 2 minutes later you find out he didn't die. C-3PO doesn't die, but he gets his memory wiped, where you think this is going to be the end of C-3PO as we know him, and R2 restores his memory right away. So there's nothing in this movie that makes you feel like there's stakes and stuff, and some of the fan service in this was a little bit much. I'm not one to complain about fan service. Usually I eat that stuff up in movies, but the fan service in this was kind of ridiculous. Like, I was a Reylo shipper, but I never really expected Rey and Kylo Ren to be together or anything. But it's like J.J. Abrams and Disney and whoever else, Kathleen Kennedy, whoever was working on this movie, just looked up different things that fans talked about on the internet, and they came across Reylo and just threw in a Reylo kiss at the end of the movie and everything. It was really lazily written and stuff, and yeah, I think the kiss was kind of hot, I'm not gonna lie, because I think those characters deserve to be together in ways, because I am a Reylo shipper, even though they aren't really good for each other. But I think that if once Ben turned back to the dark side or to the light side, they could have been a really good couple and stuff. But the way it was executed in this movie sucks, because pretty much he brings her back to life using the Force, which he shouldn't be able to do anyway, because if he did that, then Qui-Gon Jinn could have easily been brought back in episode 1 and everything, or they could have easily stopped Qui-Gon Jinn from dying. Like, he was still alive when Obi-Wan got there. He could have saved him. There's no way he couldn't have, if you can use the Force for that. But Disney just is making stuff up with this franchise, and but they're, like I said, it just is a bit much. In this movie, the ending feels like a complete ripoff of Avengers Endgame. Like, there's videos pointing it out on YouTube. Like, there's so many similarities and everything. Like, the group of characters are getting their butts kicked really bad, and all of a sudden Lando and a bunch of other characters and ships and stuff show up. Some of them are characters from previous movies and stuff that are only there for little cameos, just to get people talking about, hey, it was cool that they had that cameo in here. But it felt like they were ripping off the end of Endgame when Captain America's facing Thanos by himself, and then the cavalry arrives, and then there's a part at the end when Rey is facing Darth Sidious, because that's what I'm going to call him, because personally I think that name fits him the best. She's facing him, and he says, "I am all the Sith," and she's like, "And I am all the Jedi." And the way it just reminded me of like when Thanos does the "I am inevitable," and Iron Man goes, "I am Iron Man" stuff. It was like it was almost like they just copied that and everything. It happened like right before she defeats him and stuff. It's just really, really lame and everything. It's like, really, you had to rip off a movie that this movie should have been 10 times better than. Like honestly, this was supposed to be the big finale of the Skywalker saga, and they really butchered it and everything. Like, this should have been the most epic movie of the year and everything. It should have been the best movie of 2019 and everything, being a big finale for such a big franchise, but they just did not do much. And I also felt like they completely butchered Finn's character. They already kind of had started to butcher it in The Last Jedi, but this movie didn't go anywhere with him and everything. And I've read the script for Star Wars Duel of the Fates, which was what this movie was originally going to be before they fired Colin Trevorrow to go run the Jurassic Park franchise some more, so that he could go run that franchise some more. But I think he would have actually done a good job with the movie, just from that script that I had read and everything, because that version of the story was so much better than what we got with this one. Disney played it really safe with this one and decided to go for fan service over good storytelling, and just all in all, I think this could have been an awesome epic finale to the Skywalker saga, but because Disney wanted to play it safe and try to undo everything from the previous movie to appease the butthurt crybabies who can't handle something different, it ruins the trilogy and wastes all the potential the trilogy had, and everything. So while I do still get enjoyment out of The Force Awakens and some of The Last Jedi, this one has moments that I kind of like, but I'm not really as big on this movie. Every time I watch it, I like it a little bit less because of what it did to the trilogy and everything. In a lot of ways, I've come to the conclusion in my mind that the prequel trilogy and the original trilogy are really the only canon movies, and the sequel trilogy are just fan fiction movies, because that's what they feel like. They don't feel like Star Wars in a lot of ways and everything. I respect trying to do something different with it, but they went way overboard with it in The Last Jedi, and it totally contradicted everything from Force Awakens and made this movie to contradict everything from The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens to try to make up for what they did, and it's not very good. So I really don't care for this movie very much and everything. I'm not gonna lie, I don't think it's a piece of garbage like some people say. It's watchable and stuff, but unless I'm watching through all the Star Wars stuff, I'm not gonna watch it. More than likely, yeah. But I'm one of those that usually when I start a franchise, I watch them all every time I watch them, though. But if I'm in the mood for a Star Wars movie, this is definitely not going to be one of the ones that I go to. I still don't feel like it's the worst movie in the Skywalker saga, though, because I actually would have to go with Attack of the Clones still being my worst one out of the Skywalker saga. But at least that movie was part of a coherent trilogy that actually was mapped out. As much as I don't like Attack of the Clones, at least they knew what they were doing with that trilogy, or George Lucas knew what he was doing with it. Even though I don't fully like what he did with Attack of the Clones, I feel like at least that one was a little bit better in some ways. But all in all, I have so many mixed, conflicted feelings on this movie. I really enjoyed it when it first came out. I was like really, I think because of how hyped I was and everything, I didn't really let the story and stuff sink in until after I'd seen it a few times, and I'm not real crazy for this movie. I don't think it's the big piece of garbage that a lot of people say it is. Same with Last Jedi. I don't think either one of them are total pieces of garbage, but they aren't really great Star Wars movies. Personally, I feel like Rogue One and Solo are actually better Star Wars movies than this one. But I just don't like a lot of what they did with this. So, yeah, so I'm going to, I hate to say it, but I'm going to give this movie a D, because it really messed up this trilogy, and it's hurt Star Wars in general. We haven't had a theatrical Star Wars movie since this one. A lot of people just haven't been interested in Star Wars as much because of this and everything, although The Mandalorian has been real popular, but it's kind of starting to decline in popularity. I don't get why, because I personally think that show is great. I'll talk more about it when I get, eventually, because I am going to try to review it, but yeah, so, wow, I didn't expect this video to be almost 20 minutes long, but I wanted to get my thoughts on this movie out there, because when I reviewed it the first time, I really enjoyed it, but looking back on that review, if I still had it up, because I think I deleted it, because it was in really crappy quality and stuff, and this movie is nothing like what I remembered it on opening night and everything. It's not very great. So, anyway, let me know in the comments what you think of Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and have a good day, everybody.